Help me reach 1,000 subscribes. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every comment. Thanks. I didn't plan on staying out that late. It was supposed to be one drink after work, maybe two, just enough to shake off a long week. Elizabeth had texted earlier saying she was exhausted and heading to bed early. Nothing unusual there. We'd been married 8 years. Routines had replaced surprises a long time ago. The bar was louder than I expected. Music pulsed through the floor, laughter spilling over every table. I hadn't worn the red dress in years. Elizabeth used to love it, said it made me look fearless. I slipped it on without thinking too much, tied my hair back, and told myself I was allowed to feel alive for a few hours. The mirror didn't lie. I looked good, not in a reckless way, just present. People noticed, not inappropriately, just smiles, nods, small compliments. I danced because the music felt right, because my body remembered something my mind had forgotten. For the first time in months, I wasn't thinking about bills, schedules, or the quiet space that had grown between James and me. I was just moving, breathing, laughing. At some point, a friend leaned in and joked that I should do this more often. I smiled, but something tightened in my chest. I knew why I didn't. Home had become careful. Conversation stayed on the surface. We didn't fight, but we didn't really connect either. James wasn't cruel. He wasn't distant in obvious ways. He was just somewhere else. Always tired, always busy, always present, yet not fully there. If this moment resonates with you so far, please take a second to like this story so it can reach others who may see themselves in it. Near midnight, my phone buzzed. A missed call from James. No message. I stared at the screen longer than necessary. It wasn't concern that stopped me from calling back. It was hesitation. I told myself I'd explain when I got home, that I'd say I lost track of time, that it wasn't a big deal. The ride home was quiet. Streetlights blurred past the window, the city settling into a calmer rhythm. I practiced what I'd say, but every version sounded thin. Apologies felt unnecessary. Defensiveness felt wrong. By the time I pulled into the driveway, the house was dark, except for a single light in the living room. Inside, the air felt different. Not heavy, just still. My heels echoed softly as I set my bag down. James's jacket was on the chair, neatly folded, like always. Too neatly. The TV was off. No background noise. No familiar sounds of him moving around. "James!" I called out. No answer. I walked further in, noticing small details I shouldn't have noticed. His shoes were gone. Not by the door, not in the closet. The hall table was clear except for my keys. Too clear. My chest tightened again, sharper this time. Pause here and tell me in the comments. What would you be thinking if you walked into the silence after a night like this? I went into the bedroom. The bed was made. Perfectly. His side untouched. The drawer he kept his watch in was open, empty. That's when my pulse started racing. This wasn't him stepping out for air. This was intention. On the dresser sat a single envelope, my name written on it in James's handwriting. Careful, controlled, familiar. I didn't open it yet. I just stood there, dress still on, makeup slightly smudged, feeling suddenly exposed. Like I'd stepped into a moment I wasn't prepared for. I thought about the last few months. The quiet dinners. The polite conversations. The way he'd stopped reaching for me in small, unconscious ways. I had told myself it was stress. Work. Life. I told myself love didn't always need words. Type one word in the comments that describes what this moment feels like to you right now. My phone buzzed again. This time, a text. "James, I didn't want to do this while you were out." That was it. No explanation. No accusation. Just a sentence that landed heavier than any argument ever could. My hand shook as I sat on the edge of bed, the red fabric pooling around me like a reminder of the night I thought was harmless. I looked at the envelope again, still unopened. Part of me wanted to leave it that way, to freeze time before whatever truth waited inside. Another part knew avoidance had brought us here in the first place. If you know someone who's living in this kind of quiet uncertainty, consider sharing this story with them. Sometimes stories say what people can't. I finally reached for the envelope. Before I could open it, my phone lit up with another message. James, please read it all. I closed my eyes. Whatever waited for me wasn't going to be simple. The night I thought was about freedom was about to collide with something much colder. And I hadn't even taken the dress off yet. I sat there for a full minute before opening the envelope, staring at my own name like it belonged to someone else. The house was too quiet, every sound amplified by the absence of James. I finally slid my finger under the flap and unfolded the paper inside. His words were printed, not handwritten, which told me he'd thought this through longer than I wanted to believe. Elizabeth, it began, I'm not angry, I'm not jealous, and I'm not confused. I'm just done pretending we're fine. My throat tightened as I read on. He wrote about the distance between us, how it didn't start with one argument or one mistake, but with 100 small moments neither of us fought for. He wrote about coming home early nights and feeling like a guest in his own life, about watching me drift without knowing how to reach me anymore. Then came the line that made my hands go cold. Tonight wasn't the problem. Tonight was a proof. I sank back against the headboard. He'd known where I was. Not because he followed me, but because he'd stopped asking. He said he didn't blame me for wanting to feel noticed. He blamed himself for staying silent until silence became the language of our marriage. My phone buzzed again, a final message from him. I'm staying at my brother's. I need space to think. You deserve honesty, not half love. I stared at the screen, waiting for anger to rise. It didn't. What came instead was a dull, aching clarity. This wasn't punishment. It wasn't revenge. It was a man stepping back, because staying had started to cost him too much. I changed out a red dress slowly, folding it with more care than necessary. It felt symbolic, like putting away a version of myself that didn't quite belong anymore. In the bathroom mirror, I barely recognized a woman looking back. Not because she looked older or broken, but because she looked awake. I thought about all the times James had asked me how my day was, and I'd answered without really answering. How often I'd chosen distraction over effort. Not because I didn't care, but because I assumed there would always be time later. At this point in the story, I want to hear from you. Do you think distance like this can be repaired, or does it always mean the end? Share your thoughts in the comments and read what others are saying. I barely slept that night. When morning came, sunlight filled the room like nothing had changed, which somehow made it worse. I made coffee for one out of habit, then poured it down the sink. On the counter sat my phone, quiet, waiting. Around noon, I finally texted James. I read everything. I'm listening now. His reply came hours later. That's all I wanted. Listening. We met 2 days after that, not at home, but at a small cafe halfway between our offices. Neutral ground. He looked tired, but lighter somehow. We didn't argue. We didn't cry. We talked, really talked, about resentment, about fear, about how easy it is to lose each other, without anyone doing anything wrong. In the end, there was no dramatic decision. No sudden reunion or final goodbye. Just an agreement to stop living on autopilot, to either rebuild with intention or walk away with honesty. As I left the cafe, I realized the shock I'd found a home that night wasn't James leaving. It was the truth finally showing up when we could no longer ignore it. If this story made you reflect on your own relationships, like this video, comment with one thing you believe keeps love alive, and subscribe for more stories that explore the moments that change everything.